Oh, hi everyone, it's Dr. Nick Lucas from Influence Faculty, and I have with me today Chris Ducker from chrisducker.com, but also from Virtual Staff Finder. And the reason I've got Chris with me today is that I met Chris in a mastermind group over in Manila, and Chris is one of these people who has developed some incredible influence when it comes to using virtual staff. And he now speaks around on the circuit all over the place because so many people, of course, are interested in how to crack the code on being able to access virtual staff, how to outsource their needs overseas so they can have some, well, a whole range of benefits that come with that. So, Chris, how are you doing today, mate?
I'm very good, Nick. Thanks for inviting me on. It's a pleasure.
Now, where are you right now so people just get an idea of your location?
I am sitting in our facility, in my personal office in the facility, here in Cebu in the Philippines. I come into the office twice a week for around 4 to 5 hours each day. So a couple times a week I'm here, and I have meetings and do some face-to-face stuff and speak to incredibly handsome guys like you on the internet.
Well, it's just like looking in a mirror, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, 10 years passed because I've got
Right.
this is all getting very, very short up top here, but there you go.
There you go. All right, mate. Look, so we're going to talk about a range of things, but just so people get a great understanding of your background, but the short version, I know you came from the UK, you ended up in the Philippines, you've now got this really large organization providing outsourcing services to people all over the world. Can you give us the quick rundown on how you got from, the UK to where you are now?
Sure, yeah. Well, it was 2000. I got hired by one of the international banks here to come over and basically handle or manage and train their telemarketing staff. I did that for a couple of years, then got poached by another bank to do exactly the same thing locally for them as well. And that kind of just rolled around, did some more consultant work for a little while with outsourced call centers and that sort of type of thing. And then about 8 years ago, set up my own company, sold it a couple of years after, which was a consulting company. And then in 2008, I opened the Live to Sell group, which is our group of companies now. It consists of three different companies, which is Live to Sell, which is the parent company, which is the international call center facility that we provide for clients around the world. Then we have Virtual Staff Finder, which is our VA virtual staffing matchmaking service. And then our most recent company is the co-working space, Location 63. So that is the Live to Sell group, and it makes up around 260 full-time staff.
That's a lot. That's a lot more than I've got. How do you manage it
Lucky
all?
you.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. You know,
It,
ha-
it can get a little hectic from time to time, but it's worth it.
well, look, and that's one of the key things. I mean, I know I've met you and I've heard, also all the gossip around about you as well, and seen your podcasts and everything you're up to. So, you're obviously someone who has developed quite a lot of influence, and you need to have influence to be able to manage the amount of people that you manage. And we'll get into what your secret tricks are for that. But again, just digging more into you, mate. Why are you doing this? What keeps you in it? Why do you get up every day with the passion, the excitement that I know you've got for all this stuff?
Well, the major motivating factors for me are my family. That's really, why I do everything I do, is particularly for my children. Obviously, I'm a dad of three, which is why I have no bloody hair. Putting the obvious, kind of motivations to one side, the the real the real kind of motivating factor for me day to day in doing what we do within the outsourcing world particularly is the ability to be able to hopefully shine a light on the idea that as business owners, we don't need to do everything that we are doing, or everything that we're more likely struggling to do. And so it's, I kind of took it upon myself over the last few years since I've become more popular online particularly, to really try and educate and inspire entrepreneurs to be able to take that first step into virtual staffing and building up their own level of virtual freedom based upon whatever that is. They might just need one general virtual assistant, or perhaps they need to build an entire team of VAs. It's different for everybody. The parameters are always different. But ultimately, it's about getting freedom, and it's about unshackling yourself from the desk or from wherever it is you're working day to day, and being able to really, truly work on your business instead of being trapped working in it. That's what I'm all about.
Well, give us an insight then into how you've made that work for you. You said you come into the office about 2 days a week to get stuff done, but you're obviously living over there in the Philippines. What's your lifestyle like? What's an average day like for Chris Ducker?
Average day is waking up at around 10 a.m. And I know some people are like, what? You lazy SOB, you know what I mean? The majority of our corporate client base is on the other side of the world. It's in the US. So I do tend to have a few late nights throughout the course of the week, speaking with them on the phone and, having meetings and that sort of type of thing. But no, ultimately, I usually get to work at around 10 in the morning. By then, my VA has already gone into my inbox and cleared 70% of the 200 plus emails I get every day from my online activities. We have a huge Q&A document with all of the different answers to questions that I get over and over and over again on this stuff. And so she'll go in and she'll just basically clear 70% of the inbox before I even have my first coffee, which is great. I do about an hour of email, bit of breakfast, beat the kids up for a bit, and particularly my 4.5-year-old, who is currently going through a cross of Indiana Jones and ninja training from what I can work out at home. And then I usually grab lunch with my wife and do a little bit of exercise in the afternoon, swimming or basketball, or maybe go to the gym or something. And then I get to work late afternoon for a couple hours, take a break, do dinner, put the kids to bed and do all that sort of stuff, and then do another 2 or 3 hours work in the evening as well. So I guess my work day is probably still around sort of 6 to 7 hours a day. But because it's broken up into these different chunks of the morning, the afternoon, the evening, it doesn't really even feel like I have a work day, so to speak. And because of the processes and the systems that we put in place, particularly with Live to Sell, which is where the 230 of that 260 staff work, I'm very blessed to be able to spend less than probably 5 hours a week on that business. So it works out really well.
One of the key things that might have just slipped right by people, but you gave a massive insight right there, is the 200 plus emails that you get, of which 70% are cleared by your assistant because of processes you've got in place to provide good quality answers to the questions you get commonly. There'd be other people who spend 4 or 5 hours a day just trying to clear those 200 emails themselves. If you honestly were having to do those 200 emails yourself, what would happen to your day?
I wouldn't be able to get anything else done, obviously.
Yeah.
As entrepreneurs, I always say we're a very strange breed. We suffer from what I call superhero syndrome, and that is that we think that we're the most amazing thing in our little universe and that nothing can touch us. There's no kryptonite. Well, there is. There's plenty of kryptonite out there, and one of them's bloody email. And before I made all of the changes that I made back in 2010, which was I look at it as my defining year personally as an entrepreneur, because in January, I launched a 1-year goal to become a full-time virtual CEO by the end of that year, and I achieved that goal. But I broke that year-long, that long-term goal into mini monthly goals, where one of them would be taking myself out of that email loop, that email nightmare. Another one was hiring people that I would train once that would then train the rest of my staff. And it was ridiculous, Nick. I was like so many different entrepreneurs. I was wearing so many different hats. I was trapped in so many different areas of my business that I couldn't look beyond Outlook, for example, most days. It was just a nightmare. Now I use Gmail. I can access my email from any device on the planet, and I'm way more productive with my email and all that stuff. But yeah, email is it's tough. I hate email. I
Well,
hate it. I just, it's one of those things, I did a blog post a while back, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but I did a blog post a while back where I think the title was something along the lines of, will you use the phone? Please use the phone, or something along those lines. Where I talked about in business where everybody just relies on email so much that they've just forgotten how to pick up, the device that, we've been communicating with for the last 50, 60 years when it comes to business. And it astounds me. It astounds me that people just won't pick up the phone. But if there's anything of any real importance, I always pick up the phone. Always. Anything I can do to lower down my email numbers is, a result in my book.
Well, this is exactly why people should pay attention to you and why they are paying attention to you on its broad scale, because not only do you provide these services for people, but you're the real deal. You've done it yourself. My experience in terms of organising this interview with you was highly efficient. Your personal assistant was incredibly efficient and polite, and we just organised this with just a few emails that I think never breached the 3-sentence rule. Although,
yeah, that's my other big thing. That's my other big thing. No more than three sentences in emails. No more.
That's right. Okay, so look, you talked about your defining year, but again, just to give you an opportunity to bask in your own glory here. I mean, what do you think is your biggest achievement, right, to this industry for you? When you look back, what's the biggest contribution and the thing that you feel most satisfaction about?
I think it's. I mean, if you'd have asked me that question a few years back, I don't think I probably would have been able to answer it, because I think the journey was still beginning, even though, I've been in business for myself for so many years. I think ultimately now, though, I think my biggest achievement is that every day, mostly through Virtual Staff Finder, we help bring a little bit of calm to the entrepreneurial storm for our clients. They sign up, they use our service, they find their VA, and they start leveraging their time the way they should leverage it as a business owner. Because I'm a big believer, money comes and goes. It's one of those things. It comes and goes. It goes through your hands. But once you've invested time, it's gone forever. You can never get time back. So I believe that it's important that as entrepreneurs, we should try and leverage our time. And ultimately, by working with VAs, you get the ability to be able to buy time. Your productivity can soar if you utilize them properly. So I think ultimately the thing I'm most proud about is just helping, the hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs that we have helped by finding great, good quality staff to bring a little bit of productivity to their lives.
I mean, it sounds like I've got a question here that talks about what you love about your business, but what I'm picking up is that you love the freedom and you love the ability to provide people with time solutions. Is that what you would say that you love about the business if it really boiled down to it?
Yeah, ultimately. I mean, who wants to work 14, 15 hours a day? Are you a masochist? Are you literally trying to put yourself into an early grave? What are you doing? You madman. Well, I mean, does your wife irritate you? Does your children drive you that nuts that you don't want to spend time at home? Stop working 15-hour days. It's pointless. There's no need to do it in today's society. There's just no need in it, unless you want to. And then, you probably shouldn't be watching this interview.
That's it. So tell me, what's the gossip on you? Because you've got a word of mouth business as well. I know that I send people your way whenever I get the chance. So from your perspective, what are people saying about you? Why do they refer people to you? Why do they refer people to Virtual Staff Finder? What's the gossip?
I always say that it comes down to brand recognition, and I have worked, and my team have worked very, very hard in developing the brand that we have, not only by Virtual Staff Finder, but also the Chris Ducker brand as well. And that sounds a little egotistical, but it's completely on purpose. I believe that your brand is what people say about you when you're not around. That's your brand. It's not how cool your website looks or anything like that. And so, when I get emails from people saying, hey, Chris, I heard about you from blah, 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 who says that you're the man when it comes to outsourcing to the Philippines, I have questions on blah, 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 blah. Or if I get a tweet from someone saying, Chris, I keep hearing your name from so many people when it comes to virtual assistant help. Do you have an email address I can reach out to you, you know, or can we speak on the phone? All this sort of type of stuff. So, you know, that for me is our reputation. My reputation is being that go-to source of information, that expert, if you want to call it that, that influencer within the outsourcing industry, and particularly with the focus on helping and strategizing with small business owners to be able to leverage virtual talent.
Well, so in that regard, then, what is your point of difference in that marketplace where there is lots of people trying to get in on the game? I guess one of the things that I know about you is you're actually on the ground in the actual place. You're in the Philippines. You're based there. But again, in terms of the service you provide, and you've been doing it for a while, what is your magic power here? What's the point of difference?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that we are here, quite frankly, because there's a lot of people online that, you know, talk about outsourcing, but that's a lot of the time that's all they're really doing. You know, there's no real checkable background there, so to speak. I think being on the ground, having our finger well and truly on the pulse of the industry, doing what we do here locally is a major feather in our cap. But I think the flip side of that coin is that personally, me as the face or the voice of the business and what we do marketing wise, I think it's a no BS mentality on you know, being able to teach people how to do this stuff. And when I see people online that are apparent experts in the outsourcing business, and they say things like, "Oh, you can hire a virtual assistant in the Philippines for $1.60 an hour." I mean, the first thing I say to myself is, "Are they high? What drugs are they taking? This is ridiculous." Like, I don't know anybody that would work for $1.60 in my organization, or anybody I've ever worked with. I've lived in the Philippines 13 years, so I think that really is my biggest feather in my cap, is that no BS mentality. You don't get BS. I'm too busy for BS. I say that all the time. And when I see other people coming out with all this crap just because it sounds good online, or they're trying to flog a product or a service or something, it drives me crazy. It really does. I mean, not to the point of wanting to go after them or to call them idiots or anything like that, although a lot of them are, but really, ultimately, just tell it how it is. You don't have to make stuff up. If you're providing great value, you don't need to make stuff up, you know?
Absolutely. Well, mate, let's get into you as a person and the way you've found you've needed to influence people, because there's two sectors, if you like, that we talk about. You've got your actual staff that you need to influence, but you've also had to have the clients that you influence. And, you know, you've talked about developing a Chris Ducker brand on purpose. So tell me, what is it that you feel has enabled you to be as influential as you've been to get where you've got?
I think the no BS attitude is a big one. I think, you know, I always say that I'm too busy for BS, and I'm giving you the clean version here because I don't know what your audience is like. But I always say that I'm too busy for BS, and you should be too as a business owner. I think that's a big thing. The other thing is, particularly with my content marketing and the content that I produce and you know, utilize to be able to educate, inspire, and entertain people, that for me is, I think, a kind of a trifecta approach of reaching out to not just prospective customers, but also to be able to build a brand awareness about you and what you're all about online. So it doesn't matter whether I'm blogging or whether I'm doing a podcast or an online video. I want to make sure those three elements come into play every single time. I've got to educate you on something, I've got to inspire you to take some kind of action, and I've got to entertain you, because people's span of attentions are diminishing by the day, particularly online where everything's so noisy. So for me, it's really all about those three things, and genuinely, you know, having a genuality about really trying to help people, because if you do that, they'll become customers eventually. It might not happen overnight, but they will eventually spend money with you. So, you know, I think the soft sell approach, if you want to use that term, is probably the best way to approach customers or building your customer base in today's market. But generally, having that helpful mentality with your customer base and your fan base, and not even calling it a fan base, call it a friend base. You know, if you make friends with your subscribers, with your listeners, with your, you know, the people that are following you on Twitter and that sort of type of thing, make friends. You know, don't try and go for the jugular straight away. If you see somebody that tweets out saying, you know, I'm looking for a virtual assistant, does anybody know of anybody? I could quite easily go after that tweet with, hey, I've got a great company, come and spend some money with me, here's a link. And that's 140 characters that, you know, once it's gone, there's nothing I can do about that. So instead of doing that, why don't you go at another angle saying, what is it about, you know, needing a virtual assistant that turns you on the most? What, you know, where's your biggest pain point? You know, have you worked with a virtual assistant before? There's a lot of different ways to be able to answer that kind of thing. So instead of going for the one-night stand, go for the relationship, build up the, you know, that relationship, and eventually walk them down the altar. And then they'll spend some money with you. Then they'll put their hand in their PayPal, you know?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, one of the things that I teach here through the clients and coaching that I do is that too much or too often the emphasis is on how to sell. And my interest is how to create a buyer so that I don't have to sell, which is exactly the message that you're giving as well. Because if they're your friends and they, I mean, mate, if I needed 100 staff, I wish I needed 100 staff so I could come to you and say, I need 100 staff. You know, because you're just that kind of guy and you've got that kind of business that you want to support and promote because of what you've done. You create such great content and you're so helpful just in the marketplace in general. What about your staff? I mean, how have you managed to maintain a great working environment for your staff? How do you treat them? What's your approach to them? And how do you get the most out of them while respecting them as people? What's the secret to yours there?
It all comes down to culture. You know, our industry here, the outsourcing industry in the Philippines, particularly with a call center, is brutal. It's probably one of the worst industries in the planet when it comes to turnover. I think they're at around about a 65% annual turnover.
That's
of
huge.
Staff in the call center business here in the Philippines, which is just atrocious, no matter what way you want to try and look at it. And we've got to the point where over the time that we've been in business, we've developed the culture, our core values around really making sure that when people come to Live to Sell, or when they work for Virtual Staff Finder or any of our companies, that it's a job for life as well. You know, as long as they do a great job. We, generally speaking, we don't have to let people go. You know, when we hire, our recruitment process has been so fine-tuned now that, you know, we don't have to really let people go. Our turnover rate is less than 8% on a yearly basis, which, you know, the grand scheme of things is huge. So it's about culture. It's about having an open door type policy, and being very approachable, even with lower end staff. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I can't manage 260 people. It's just not in my genetics, my DNA, to do that. I'm actually not a very good manager, to be very frank with you. But what I can do is I can inspire people, I can mentor people, which I guess is a form of management if you want to start splitting hairs. But ultimately, I love to be able to just give my people the opportunity to become their own boss, ultimately, within the organization. So I want them to own it. I want them to own what they do. I don't care whether they're a customer service representative for one of our clients or whether they're one of my management. And I work closely with my team of managers, about 20-odd managers I have. And then they, in turn, will work, you know, with the staff slightly further down the corporate ladder. But yeah, I mean, I'm not the best of managers. I'm really not. But what I can do is genuinely motivate people to take action and genuinely own what they do for a living with our company. And it's just great. I mean, I've got people who've been working with me for 5+ years, and I ask them, you know, why are you still here? And they just, I don't want to be anywhere else, boss. I'm just happy being here. That's exactly what you want to hear, you know?
So what about then the attitudes of the people who are your clients? In fact, I should backstep there and say, who are your kind of ideal clients? Who are the types of people who use Virtual Staff Finder?
The types of the types of Virtual Staff Finder clients are those such as solopreneurs, people, online entrepreneurs, small business owners. We've had owners of pet shops, utilize our service in finding VAs to help market their businesses online. Anybody really that, I believe that every entrepreneur should have a general VA, a GVA, as I call it. And that is someone that can, handle your online research, manage your blog, update your social media, manage your calendar, your travel itinerary, do a little transcription work, all this kind of busy work that needs to be done in today's market. And it's an ever-changing landscape, the world that we live in now, particularly business-wise. It's very social. It's very, very mobile, and all these things have changed the way that we do business and work with our customers. So really, our clients are they really fall under two main categories, and that's either A, people that have been in business for a while and that are already successful, but they might be struggling to come to terms with the way that things are getting done in today's business world, and they need a little help understanding all the bells and whistles of the online world. And then the flip side of that is, younger people, more trendier, techie savvy people that, might have a great idea, might have a great service or blog or community or whatever, but they don't have any real world experience when it comes to business in terms of business plans and meetings and all this sort of type of stuff. So they're really, they're one and the same. What I'm describing here are not only the Virtual Staff Finder clients, but also the people that will subscribe to my podcast or my blog or interact with me online. And it's a perfect marriage. It works very, very well.
And so what are some of the misconceptions that these potential clients come to you with? What kind of attitudes do you find get in the way of them having a good experience with outsourcing and having virtual assistants?
There's a couple of major ones. The first one is believing that one VA can do everything for you. I call this the myth of the super VA.
Is there a blog post on that?
I'm pretty sure there's probably one or two of them.
Yeah.
And a whole chapter in my forthcoming book as
well. Very good.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have one person do all of it for you. I mean, there's probably not a day that goes by where I don't get at least one email from someone saying, "Hey, Chris, I'm looking for a virtual assistant too," and then there's this list of everything from graphic design to general business admin to video editing to podcast editing to writing to SEO to web development. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Now, you think about it logically. In the real world, is a banker a plumber? Is a carpenter a car washer? Is a roofing expert? Is he someone that can also help you with the interior design of your house? No, he's not. So you've got to think about hiring for the role instead of the task. And that's where that's where a lot of people, that's one way a lot of people have this preconceived notion, thanks to, again, a lot of people that are apparently experts on the subject online talking. They have this preconceived idea that one person can handle all those things for you. And it doesn't happen. It's not a magic pill that you can pop and everything's going to work right out of the box. There is a little bit of work, that needs to be done and that sort of thing as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and that kind of carries on perfectly, is the belief that a VA will come fully trained in everything they need to do for you right out of the box. And that doesn't happen either, obviously, because you're different to anybody else that they've ever worked with before. Your business is also different to anybody else that they've ever worked for before as well. So, there's lots of different parameters in place. How you like things done, Nick, might be completely different to the way I like things done. A perfect example is I had someone who hired a VA who asked them to put together a list of potential Christmas gifts for their teenage daughter on Hannah Montana, products. And so he just basically just said to his email, I want to buy my daughter a Hannah Montana gift for Christmas. Can you put together a list of 10 different ideas? Okay. So she puts together a list. Is it just a Word document with, basically just, this is it and this is the price kind of thing, So the guy freaks out. Oh, what's wrong with you? I don't know what I'm looking at here. Why have you used, black and red text? And why have you used Times Roman? Why not Arial size 12 instead of 10? And where are the links for the products so I can see them? And I need to see that I can buy them at 3 different websites and the price comparisons and all that stuff. So I literally just got back to the guy and I said to him, did you give all these separate parameters of this task to your VA? He said, well, no, I just assumed that she would do it. Aha.
Yeah.
So the assumption that the VA would know exactly how he wanted things presented and put together was obviously what was flawed in that. So a little bit of training is needed, and the ability to understand that one person cannot do everything for you. They're the two biggest mistakes a lot of people make when they venture into the virtual staffing world for the first time.
So basically they need to chill and understand that these people, it's virtual, they're in the other side of the world, and it's the whole hire for attitude and train for skill kind of approach. Because I think, the
way to look at it is that your virtual assistant is a person, it's not a program. Okay, it's not something that you're just going to plug directly into your business. It's something you've got to work with. They're part of your team. They're an extension of you. And that's where a lot of people sort of start off on the wrong foot.
When it comes to the actual industry itself, what do you want to fix about the industry? What's your crusade? Why have you taken such a leadership role in the industry with what you currently do?
I don't know whether it's a crusade. I guess it probably could be construed to that, but I want every entrepreneur to stop, burning the candle at both ends, and to truly appreciate that utilizing outsourcing in today's market is a great way to be able to run, support, and grow their business. I guess I'm on a little bit of a mission to at least get every entrepreneur out there working with a general VA, because everybody needs that role, particularly in the 21st century where everything is very online. If you get a kick out of sitting in front of Facebook for 5 hours a day and messing around on Twitter, talking with prospective customers for a few hours a day as well, if that turns you on, if that's kind of like what your thing is, then please carry on going ahead and do that. But you ain't going to be able to grow your business very fast. If you can get a virtual assistant to do that stuff for you, however, or take it up to the next level, if you can get a team of virtual assistants handling your social media, producing and marketing your online content for you, editing your videos, putting up your podcast on iTunes, designing and marketing infographics, putting stuff on SlideShare so you get 6,000 web visits within one day, like I did last week when I was featured on the homepage of the site. All these different things. If you can have your virtual team doing all that for you, what are you going to do as a business owner? You're either A, going to do nothing and enjoy complete freedom, which may be your bag, and if that's the case, then go for it, or you might actually end up working on your business, strategizing for growth, spending more time with your 20% all-star client list, and all these different types of things. So really, I guess, the mission is really just try and get as many people as possible out there that are struggling, that are in that entrepreneurial kind of, death spin, and try and get them to turn their eye onto the idea of VAs and working with VAs to be able to help them.
Well, let's just get down into some nitty gritty then about that specific thing. As someone looking to make their first hire, right the way through to what you've just described as a team, because you described it in a kind of a whirlwind there. But what you've said is that your first hire should really be a general VA, and then after that you might hire specific people to do more specific or specialized tasks that you need in your business. So what have you seen? I mean, you'll see a lot of people, no doubt, come, they hire someone, and they might drop off the radar, but you've no doubt had other clients who started with their first general VA, and then no doubt seen them really grow and have the success that you ultimately want for them. So paint that picture for me more specifically. What would be an example of a typical scenario where someone has never hired someone before, right the way through to having a small or even a larger team that enables them to do what you just said, work on the business and really grow?
Well, let's backtrack a minute and look at the type of person. Let's say, for example's sake, it's somebody that is very much up to date with where we are business-wise in today's market, right? So they've got some kind of web presence, whether it be a business website or a blog or something along those lines. I do one particular exercise, and you know, you can go to my site and there's a video version exercise of this, chrisducker.com/number 3 lists, so 3 lists. And I call this my 3 lists of freedom exercise. And basically what it comes down to is getting a piece of paper, drawing 2 lines on it so you create 3 different columns. And you're going to make three lists of separate tasks or roles or jobs. The first list is a list of all the things that as a business owner you just hate doing. All right, so this is the stuff that when you think about it, you procrastinate for as long as you possibly can. You hate these particular tasks. I mean, you would rather vomit in your mouth and swallow again than handle these tasks.
I can think of them already.
You get where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah.
That's the first column. The second column is a list of all the things that you can't do. Now, this is where superhero syndrome kicks in, because we believe that as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we can do everything in the universe, right? But it's not true. I once spent 3 days trying to customize a WordPress theme for one of my first blogs, and it was a complete and utter catastrophe. Love it. Iron Man, Thor, what more do you need? This is what I'm talking about. See, now, if you think you're either of those 2 guys, you need to listen to this exercise. You need to do this exercise. So that's your second list, a list of all the stuff that you feel that you can't do, that someone out there is bound to be able to do it better than you. And then the third list, and this is probably by far the single most important list out of all 3, is a list of all the things that as the big boss, as the big cheese, as the guy steering the ship in the right direction, you feel you shouldn't be doing. Like your time is better spent on other tasks. Those are your 3 lists of freedom, and those then become, for want of a better term, your blueprint or your roadmap for starting your outsourcing journey, which will be with a general VA. Now, once you've got up and running with that general VA for a while, the chances are that they've probably helped you shape your personal brand or your website or your online platform in some capacity to a certain level. But once you've shaped that platform, you have to get people to that platform, which means 2 things in today's business world. First and foremost, social media, which your general VA can handle for you. And secondly, it means the search engines. And when I say that in plural, I mean Google, I mean YouTube, and I mean iTunes. I don't mean Yahoo, and I don't mean Bing, because they only make up around 20% of the traffic online. YouTube is the 2nd largest search engine on the planet, and it just so happens to be owned by the largest search engine on the planet in Google. And now, because of the fact that it's so much easier to rank for keywords on YouTube because there's less competition, and now they're putting those video results on the front page of Google as well, it's double bubble, baby, right? So that's where you want to get your second member of your team, which would be more of an SEO/web marketing assistant to help you get traffic to your website via all those different means. The next one might be a web developer. So let's say you develop one platform, now you might want to be developing some different landing pages, producing some opt-in forms, getting people to be able to build their marketing list and that sort of type of thing. And that's where your web developer will come into the team itself. You may or may not need a graphic designer full time. If you don't, that's cool. Go to Elance, go to Odesk, and find somebody on there to handle doing your affiliate banners for you, or developing your landing page graphics, or your business card, or whatever the case may be. So you see what's going on here. You're just developing the team one by one as and when you need to do it. I don't suggest you think that you need all this right out of the gate and you hire everybody all at once, because you do need to eventually start pulling yourself back and developing more freedom for yourself again. Because what will happen, once you're up to 4 or 5 members of staff, now you're a manager. Now you're not a business owner, right? Now you're just managing your virtual team. And you don't want to get into that position too much. So once you get to that 4 or 5 man or lady team, you then get to the point of either promoting your general BA, depending on how long they've been with you, to a project manager role, or going out and hiring somebody with that 3, 4, 5 years experience of managing small teams virtually to be a project manager. And at that point, you can take a step back. They handle the day-to-day stuff with the team, and you ultimately, at that point, will work with just the project manager, and they will disseminate all of the information, tasks, and work and projects to the team directly. That's how you build a virtual team.
That sounds like outsourcing utopia.
It kind of is,
yeah.
And it's very, very sexy. It's very sexy. Once you get into that groove of hiring and training and developing and handing off, tasks and roles to different people, it's tough to stop it, And I know several people that have small teams like that, 3, 4 man teams set up for different projects, different websites. One of our clients actually has 4 different websites and a total of around 25 people that work for him, either on a part or a full-time basis, to develop and market and promote and help sell all of those services and products. And it just works brilliantly. This guy actually, he takes it to a new level because he does it all whilst he's traveling the world. He's a location-independent guy. And at one point, apparently, he had up to 60 people working for him, and he brought it right back to around 20 to 25 with these main projects. So it's a beautiful thing. It's as long as you do it in the right way, you're going to achieve a hell of a lot.
So the big missing link here at the moment that I know a lot of people struggle with is how to find those people. And I know that when I first started trying to do this, I just had all kinds of trouble that if I'd let that stop me, I wouldn't be now with the team that I've got, and I wouldn't have the flexibility I've got. And the things that I encountered that went wrong were staff who you'd hire and would go completely AWOL, staff who you'd hired who said they could do something and it turned out that they couldn't, staff whose internet would go down every 5 minutes, staff who, there's all these obstacles to the so-called utopia. So what's the solution to that? And I know that Virtual Staff Finder is that, so I've kind of cornered you into now having to talk about Virtual Staff Finder and what you actually do, because essentially you solve that problem, that's finding the staff problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 types of different outsourcing. There's project-based outsourcing, and then there's what I call team-building-based outsourcing, where you're developing the actual team. The project-based outsourcing is perfect. You need a logo design or landing page built or 5 hours of audio transcribed or something like that. These are one-time tasks, and this stuff can be performed by somebody that you find on Elance or Odesk and one of the other job posting sites out there. It's a one-time deal. They do the work. You pay them. Thank you very much. Robert's your father's brother. I'm not. Right? So the other flip side of that is the team-building side of things, and that is where it does become a little bit more complex, because you want to make sure that you're hiring the right people, because they're going to be long term. It's not just about one task, it's about being part of the team and being part of your company. You can try and do it with job posting sites. I haven't heard of anybody having any massive amounts of success. I'm sure there's some people out there in terms of developing an actual team, but ultimately it comes from 1 or 2 main players on your team, and then either working with somebody like Virtual Staff Finder, or even getting your VAs. Why don't you empower your current VA, your general VA, that first person you hire, to go ahead and help you build? Having a good quality interview is really, really strong. You've got to have 10, 12 really solid leading questions in there. doing some proper background research, doing some solid testing, and that sort of type of thing. And that is really where Virtual Staff Finder does come into play. And I don't want to make this sound like it's turning into a plug, but the reason why we set Virtual Staff Finder up was to bridge that gap of all these different things that you needed to do to be able to find that experienced, loyal, hardworking VA to be part of your team, not just to handle one or two tasks. And we do all of those things and a hell of a lot more locally. I mean, even to the point of police checks and things like that locally here, that only we can do because we're here,
Well, I mean, and look, that's the key thing about it is that it's not a plug, because that's as someone who's not based in the Philippines but who wants staff, if on my list of things that I've got here that I don't want to do, it's having to come up with what interview questions to ask and having to sit there and interview people online and try and make a decision. That's actually a stressful thing for me, and it's a stressful thing I know for a lot of people. So again, that's just one of the things I don't want to do, and essentially that's the service that you guys provide. In terms of doing the background checks and recommending people who are going to fit certain roles and skills and that type of thing. That's the dig, right? That's the gig, right?
Yeah, and I mean, too busy for it. Just try it. Put a post up on one of those job posting sites for a task. You'll have 100 people send their resumes literally within 24 hours. What are you going to do? You're going to read 100 resumes? You're going to interview 100 people? That's BS. You're too busy for BS, remember? So, I mean, we don't even interview 100 people as part of our process, right? So, but we have a large bank of people that are looking for work at any one time, and we will go through them. And then once all those things have been done, we'll present what we feel, based upon your job description, are the 3 top candidates for the role. And at that point, you step in and you do a Skype interview with them, and you pick the one that you like the most and get to work. Simple as that.
Sounds fantastic, mate. So, so what's up for you for the rest of the day? You've managed to squeeze in an interview into the day. What's next?
I actually have another interview for a podcast coming up in about 20 minutes from now.
Yeah.
And then it'll be lunch with the wife, and I'll be probably hanging out here for another couple of hours and goofing off with the guys a little bit here. I think there's a birthday. I think we've got a birthday cake floating around somewhere. So
right.
It'll be some fun. It'll be some fun at the Virtual Staff Finder HQ today. And then I'll go back and get beaten up by my 4-year-old. That'll be the highlight of the day.
Well, mate, look, it's...
I tell you, man, Indiana Jones and Ninja mixed together, very, very, very dangerous. I'm telling you. Even with a little, mini-me package. Trust me.
Yeah. I can see it, mate. And look, just with that, and just as talking about freedom and that sort of thing, as I mentioned, I've got a team of people, and there's about 3 that I've got, and they basically fulfill the roles that you've just talked about, and they are absolutely fantastic. And it didn't start out that way, and I said, initially I had some false starts and etc., but I persisted through, and I've got an absolutely fabulous team, and they do take care of so much. I've had them for probably coming over a year now. It would be definitely over a year. And as a result of that, it just does give exactly what you've described, that freedom. I mean, this morning for me, it was getting up, taking the kids to school. I went to a cafe. I had a bunch of things I just had to read. I had I outlined a few tasks that I needed doing, and I was able to send that through to the team knowing that they're going to get done. And, then I was able to come here and do this interview with you, and I've got a similar afternoon scheduled. And it does give incredible freedom, and I'm definitely someone who's benefited from, having outsourcing teams and putting it together. So, mate, I think what you do and the service you provide is excellent, and I couldn't do anything but recommend your services 100% to anyone who's listening to the podcast. There'll be a link underneath on the video too for anyone to click through. And
very, very nice of you to do that and to say all those nice things about us. But the nicest thing that you just said right there is that you're doing what I'm trying to work so hard at advocating here, and that is that you're building that virtual freedom for yourself by working with these guys and genuinely living the lifestyle that you want to live by. And I think that really is the focus. When Tim Ferriss came out with the 4-hour work week, not so many people had heard of virtual assistants before. And then they read that book and they were like, oh my God, someone else can buy stuff online for me, and all these sort of different types of things. And he literally it wasn't even close to the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it was, he opened the floodgates for entrepreneurs all around the world. So, Tim, if you're listening in or you're viewing, thank you very much for opening up the door, my man. But, ultimately, though, man, just the fact that you're doing what you're doing and the way you're doing it makes me very, very happy. It's very, very cool.
Hey, just a quick Tim Ferriss story, and then I'll let you go and have a drink before your next podcast. I read that book, 4-Hour Workweek, and I had a book that I wanted to write myself that required a lot of research. And it was kind of a scientific book. So I found all the different research papers that I wanted, and this was an example of a task. I actually hired someone to go and get all of those research papers for me. There was about 104. When I say about, that's very precise, isn't it? 104 research papers. And, within 24 to 48 hours, I was sent a You Send It file, and in that were the 104 PDFs of the research papers that I needed. And I can tell you, I would not have written my book if I hadn't have had that, because to sit there and log on and go and find 104 papers is just not something that I had time to do.
Right, and let me ask you this, how much did you pay for that task? How much did you pay for it?
I think it was about $90.
And how long would it have taken you to get 104 PDFs from the internet?
Well,
hours and hours and hours and hours.
I wouldn't have done it. It would have taken forever.
It's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Exactly right. So, mate, look, you go get ready. Thank you so much for spending the time today and talking to us about quite a lot of things, and I really appreciate it. And we're obviously going to catch you around the traps.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure to be on. Thank you very much for the invite again.
Cheers, mate.